Hello and welcome to the 48 Shades of Football podcast. My name is Stevie W, and you're listening to everyone's favourite Korean football talk show recorded in English on a Monday night in Central Seoul in front of a live studio audience this evening.
When it's not raining.
When it's not raining, or we don't have anything better to do, indeed. A little bit of music there, especially for that referee at Sangam at the weekend. Apparently the lines there are blurred, particularly close to the goal. Paul, was it in?
Yes.
That's what she said.
I'll explain in detail when we get to our review of the match, but yes, it was definitely in.
Okay, so we've learned that Paul's a liar.
Yes. Are you sure the blurred lines was for that? I thought it was for the fact that your vision's still out from your all-you-can-drink ale night at...
Well, the all-you-can-drink ale night was more than blurred lines. It's a completely blurred match. But even I, at that night, could have seen that Seoul's first goal didn't cross the line. So,
well, we'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that later, okay. As you might guess, as ever, I'm joined by my two partners in crime, Mark and Paul. Mark, obviously you're our key number one football aficionado. There's been so many games over the last week. You'll have been ground hopping round, 5 or 6 different stadiums?
No, I was working.
So how many games have you seen since we last met?
0.
There we go. So you'll expect the usual level of insightful
highlights.
comment.
But considering the fact that there are 5 people crammed into one room in my office and 14 beers, I might be sacked. So maybe next week I'll get to see all 7 games I get played, do you know what I mean? So you never know, yeah? You never know. I might end up alongside Paul in the job dole queue.
Is that where you've been all week, Paul?
No. I've been preparing for this, of course.
Thank you, Stevie, for that amazing introduction, as always. I'm obviously joined by Paul on my left. Paul is very happy after his 3-0 victory when Seoul beat the mighty Jeonnam, the Suwon Slayers. It was 3-0 or maybe 2-0, potentially 1-0. At least maybe one of the goals crossed the line, yeah?
One of them definitely did.
One definitely did. So at least Seoul managed to get a goal. And Park Ji-young, I believe, scored, yeah?
He did, but if you keep questioning me about all this stuff, I'm going to have nothing to say later, so...
That's so we can get to this podcast as quickly as possible, Paul. That's the main goal for this week, yeah?
We've taken a vote, Paul. We've decided you shouldn't have anything to say later, so if you just...
Pretty much.
I'll give you a minute now.
Well, you normally talk all over me, so...
That's what she said.
What? That doesn't even make sense.
People just like talk all over you.
Thanks for that introduction, Mark.
Anytime.
You obviously put a lot of thought into that. In that preparation time.
I thought I was doing an introduction for Stevie, so yours came at the last minute, to be honest.
Have you got something to say about Stevie? I mean,
no, I didn't plan that either. so
you
not
like,
really.
You'd like me to do it?
I picked Alistair's.
Except I already used my Stevie joke earlier about the blurred lines, so... Yeah, we had a discussion a few weeks ago and decided that Stevie was the best host, so going forward he'll probably be doing it most weeks. Last week he did a pretty shameful performance.
It was pretty awful, wasn't it, really, to be honest?
He tried to convince us that we made a mistake, but we're giving him one more chance, as is the Korean way, so...
Absolutely.
He's...
Well, that's the truth of the matter is that we did rock, scissors, paper, like in the pub, and Stevie lost.
Yeah. He's off the... Well, not off the booze, but he's cut down the booze for today.
I've had one less beer than I normally have.
I think, to be honest, you had maybe 3 less beers than you had last week, to be honest.
I thought you'd been pre-gaming since Wednesday, so you're all like pre-loaded up and recharged and ready to go.
Yeah, I think it's still hungover, yeah.
I think I'm... yes.
And
yet again, ale night at the football, not a good idea. 15,000 won, as many beers as you can drink. I did notice that the last game on Saturday night, they ran out of beer at half-time. I can only presume I drank it all on Wednesday night.
And as Mark alluded to earlier, we've got some special guests tonight. We've got 1/3 of the Korea Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Club. We've got Gary here tonight.
So that means we've got 2/3 of...
Well, we've got 2/3 including
yourself.
Well, yeah, we're all Wednesday, aren't we? But yeah, it's...
Well, when we were talking to Son just now, apparently not.
He was asleep.
But yeah,
I guess we really do put her to sleep when we talk, yeah?
She's... After 2 beers and a sip, she's settled down in the corner, eyes closed.
It's your dulcet tones, Paul. It has that effect on women.
So yeah, we've got Gary and Son here. We were hoping to a little interview about newcomers to Korean football, and we'll see how that goes later.
Who needs Rohypnol when you're Paul Carver, yeah?
Is that your motto for life?
That's my goal for the week, man. I'm finished. Oh, wait, home, guys. Lock yourself out the way there.
Alright, so on that bombshell,
Can I leave that in?
Yeah, please do that. It's a funny joke I've cracked for like 4 weeks.
so coming up tonight on the show, I guess we'll do a review and a bit of a recap in the big games in the K-League Classic and the Challenge as well. We had a couple of rounds of games in the Challenge. I think there was 3 FA Cup games we can quickly cover. Between that and the previews, we'll come up with some content for you, whether it's funny stories, referees, or interviews with sleeping audience members. We'll see what we can come up with. And then, before we go, we'll preview all the upcoming games for the week. So, first up then, I guess, let's look at the K-League Classic matches and what went on at the weekend. The first one, which was Suwon, I think, were at home to Jeju. Did any of you guys manage to see any of it?
No.
No. I saw the goal.
Jeju's classic, play really well, put their shots just wide, and then panic every time a cross comes into the box. The guy whipped the free kick in, and about 5 Jeju defenders just completely missed it, and it ended up.
It was a weird goal actually, because Yom doing his usual. The only thing he's actually good for is taking a few free kicks, but he whipped it in, and it looked as if at least 4 or 5 people could have cleared it, and then somehow I was like, is that an own goal? Has somebody finished it? No, it's been awarded to Yom somehow.
Yeah, and I could have sworn when I saw it, it took a deflection. Like, it seemed to take a deflection, and then the more you watch it, the ball doesn't seem to deviate. It's just the players seem to dive out of the way of the ball.
On first watch, and to be honest, I wasn't giving it a second watch. It looked as if someone had finished it off, or a defender had finished it, but they gave it to Yom. So well done to Yom. He's now the top. I think he's the top. Is he the top scorer in the league, or the top Korean scorer in the league now?
Top Korean scorer.
But yeah, no, I did see a bit more of the game, and he had the right idea, because otherwise they put some pinpoint crosses in to beat Ji-hoon, and he was just kind of, the ball hit him in the head and rolled off at some funny angle, and so he's better just shooting than trying to cross.
So well done, Suwon, Mark. Congratulations to Suwon.
I think the only point of note for this game was the fact that
silence.
Even despite the poor performances midweek in the FA Cup game, Chung Song-rong kept his place. He played in goal.
He had a decent enough game, I guess.
Presumably made the saves that he needed to save.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
that they didn't concede.
I mean, it was Jeju, so they were all the shots were probably by the post anyway, or over the bar.
I guess so.
So he probably got his gloves dirty twice. And one of them was from a shot.
I think Will Jung's the keeper. Suwon are not going to win the league, so congratulations, John Book, on winning the league.
Yeah. I mean, like, Suwon won. I mean, really, a minute and a half and Suwon won. Let's move on.
And talking about John Book, they won as well. 2-1 against Daejeon. Looked as if they might not for about
20 minutes.
2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It wasn't as long as 20.
It was like Jeonbuk scored. Daejeon took the lead in the 12th minute.
Daejeon took the lead through the only person in Daejeon who actually knows where the net is. Adriano.
I believe his name is Godriano.
Yeah.
And then 11 minutes later, God Lee-dong-guk equalised. And then 8 minutes later, Leonardo put it beyond doubt.
Leo Goddo,
yes. So we have Godriano, Godduk, and Leo Godro. Basically, yeah. I mean, 2-1, predictable before the game.
It's not
started.
a bad result for Daejeon, actually.
That's a great result for Daejeon, to be honest.
I mean, before the match, you'd have thought a bit more than that. So the fact that they've given them a bit of a contest, I guess, is all right. But
I mean,
looking at the form for John Book, 5 wins, it's quite ominous, isn't it? John Book is going to win the league.
I mean, like, the thing about Daejeon is they've turned up against both Suwon and Jeonbuk, the top 2 teams in the league.
They weren't bad against Seoul either, to be honest.
Yeah, against Seoul pretty good as well, but they're not one of the top teams in the league. But maybe had to turn up against. Maybe had to turn up against some of the
fighting talk.
Maybe had to turn up against some of the carrying fodder like Busan or Gwangju. Maybe they wouldn't be quite so bad right now. But yeah, I mean, fair play to Daejeon for scoring. Jeonbuk, I mean, they're going to steamroll this league. We keep talking about being over by the monsoon season.
Indeed.
I think that joke is now reality, to be honest.
And the other game that I guess none of us watched, Gwangju 0-0 against Pohang.
I think I was getting my hair done at the time.
Were you washing your hair?
No, I was getting it done.
Paul, you weren't getting your hair done. What were you doing at that point?
Paul was getting his hair plugs put back in again.
I was getting
that
I was
Y
getting
girl
my
makes over
pate
there.
waxed.
V girl, is it V girl, Y girl? What they're called this week?
I did actually watch a bit of the highlights of this on YouTube.
There were highlights of a 0-0 draw.
It's like travelling back to the 1990s, but seeing Guangzhou. But
the goalie got twatted in the face at one point, which was amusing.
yeah, that was it.
Was it an actual twat in the face? Because that would have been rough watching. That would have been a highlight.
I don't think they've got cheerleaders at Guangzhou.
I would go to YouTube right now and watch that.
It wasn't a twat in the face; he got twatted in the face.
Oh, sorry.
And there was a disallowed goal, a disallowed own goal. Even.
Yeah, disallowed own goal.
Who twatted the goal in the face? It wasn't your pal Moritz, was it again?
Your pal.
I remember
your pal Martin throwing cans in the pitch again.
It was
the 92nd minute, clean thrown goal, and the guy decided to aim for the goalie's nose, and he hit it very well, but that not gonna
With the ball?
with the ball.
ball.
Oh, you made it sound so much better,
Then-
Paul, when it was just a twat in the face.
But no, that there was a. What minute was that in when Guangzhou broke down the left?
That was the first half, the disallowed own goal. But
How often do you see a disallowed own goal?
A disallowed on goal?
How's that possible?
the cross, the ball had just got out of play. The cross that then was
Allegedly.
brought in, the defender did a great diving header into his own net. But the
He
linesman had
must
flagged
have
for it.
known it was going to play, and he just thought,
He was
watch
he was,
this.
he was horizontal to the ground as
He
he
said,
launched.
"This is my
himself.
only chance of glory of season. Bang! I'm going to score." Yeah.
It would have been the second best own goal of the week if it had counted.
But that's another pretty nothing score for Pohang, isn't it? I think
Yeah, I mean they're
they're
I mean against
if we're
Incheon,
talking about the K-League manager sack race, if they finish down in 5th or 6th this season, then surely there's your man who might not be in the job next season.
The thing about Pohang is that last week they threw away the 2-0 lead against Songnam to draw 2 each. You'd have thought this week they'd have thrown everything at Guangzhou. Do you know what I mean, to like try and get something from the game. I mean, like you'd have thought they'd have trying to like make up for last week. But I mean, the man of the match was a Guangzhou player. I mean, Guangzhou looked as if maybe they were probably like more deserving of a victory, than Pohang were. And Pohang are continuing this like erratic form that is not going to get them anywhere in the league this season.
I think you can say unless Pohang pulls something out of the bag in the second half of the season, they're not going to be challenging. But
No,
you can probably say that for a few teams. I mean, the other one, Ulsan's challenge is
Gone.
short as bolt now, I think, isn't it?
I mean, before you bring in Ulsan, I just want to say one thing. The concept of Pohang for the last 2 years was no foreigners, Koreans altogether. They did quite well. They brought in a bunch of foreigners. A friend of the podcast, Moritz, has come in. He's got his EPL pedigree. He's not really done much to set the world alight.
Who did Moritz play for? Was he at Fulham?
Fulham, but all he's proven here is he's a complete lunatic, right?
I mean, maybe his EPL form. Maybe EPL stands for one elbow per league game. Because he's a bit of an idiot, to be honest. And if you're listening, Andre,
We'd love to get you on the podcast one
sorry,
week.
but you're an idiot, mate. You're an idiot. And shave that beard off, yeah, because that makes you look even more of an idiot.
If you're suspended this Monday when we're down in Ulsan, then please
Come and see us, mate. I'm the guy with the spiky hair, right?
Mark's buying the beers.
I'm the guy with the soul top on.
And Paul's the guy with the well, you can tell Paul, he'll be topless. We'll say Mr. Muscle on a diet. Anyway,
Right, let's move on.
Move on. Talking of Ulsan, as we were,
So, yeah. So talking of teams that are failing in their title challenge, Ulsan have now dropped down to 8th after
Yeah.
losing at mighty Songnam.
yep.
Were you there, Mark? No.
Unfortunately, I had to work due to a teacher shortage and a ridiculous contract that we
Because you
have.
keep firing them.
So I watched the second half of the game because I couldn't go to the game. I was working during the first half. I mean, it was like a kind of average game. I thought Jeparov and Kim Tae-hwan might have been a bit more motivated than they were. They weren't really. The Songnam goal came from a corner. The guy took the corner. It was a short corner. He picked the ball up, curled it into the near post. Kim Sung-gyu should probably have done it way better than he did. He didn't. He kind of let it in. I think one of the things I must comment on is like about 5 minutes after that, I think it was Hwang Hee-jo was clean through in the box with a chance to pull the trigger for the second goal, and went down ridiculously worse than like a first-rate Japanese porn model. Like, it was awful. Like, he just went down in the box with like no one anywhere near him. It was pathetic. He didn't even get booked.
When has anyone ever said that a first-rate Japanese poor model going down was awful? Gary, I mean, you've been in Japan recently.
I've been in Japan, so I'm just assuming
pretty awful.
I'm just assuming you're watching it on TV. It would all be pixelated because that's everything that happened in
I'm
Japan.
trying to get my head around the idea of a second-rate Japanese porn model.
It was pixelated. There was a lot of screaming, and there was like 14 guys running about him. Hence the.
And your girlfriend ran in and told you to stop watching that rubbish.
Please, Mark, please. I'm in the bedroom. And I was like, It was terrible. He went down really easily. But the fact of the matter is that the referee didn't book him. Even though it was an obvious dive, the referee kind of like waved him away and laughed at him. Didn't book him. And I think that's another thing about Korean K-League referees. They're pathetic, really, to be honest.
Yes.
And I'm sure that will come up in the next match whenever Paul talks about FC Seoul.
I think that just shows Songnam's purchasing power. The fact they can bribe referees that easily to give.
They can't even afford enough people to work in the GS.
Is that the purchasing power
in the stadium?
The purchasing power, they can hire Japanese porn stars to coach the forwards on how to
go down.
How to go down.
I mean, it was terrible. I mean, like, the point of the matter is that Songnam probably deserved to win. The dive at the end is something that I really hate to see, particularly when he was clean through and could have scored easily, make it 2-0. Which would have actually put them into fourth place.
So deserved win then for Songnam.
Deserved win, yeah. They deserved to win.
So before we get on to the undeserved win that was at Sangam, we should finish off with the other game. Busan lost again, 2-1 at home to Incheon. That's Incheon's third straight win. What's happened to Incheon? Somebody's put something in there. Kimchi jjigae.
Kevin Morris, to be honest.
Did he score?
No, but I mean, as much as
a penalty.
Did he play?
I mean, I kind of slated Morris like a few weeks back in the podcast for anyone who actually does listen. I did slate him. I thought
he does if he's picked up his game since.
I think so. Plus, I had a big banner last week saying "Morris, you're shite," which was in both Belgian and in English.
Flemish.
Well, basically, like he's come on to a game recently, and he's really pushing them and really driving them forward. I think he's the big difference.
That's the difference. The difference is Kevin, and the difference is Busan are not really very good at all.
Yeah, I saw a bit of this game, and it was comedy of errors at times, but there was a brilliant own goal from Incheon to give Busan the lead.
Yeah, it's an own goal.
Where the cross comes in, he does a blatant foul, pushing the striker over. Panics, I think, because he's going to be penalised for the foul on the edge of the box, and then as the ball comes in, heads it over his own goalkeeper into the net. So by scoring an own goal, he didn't get pulled up for the foul, but
saved himself from getting sent off.
Stick one of mine. And then they won 2-1, and he did a tackle in the 91st minute to stop them scoring the equaliser. So yeah, maybe it was a very clever tactic. Maybe that's why.
Give them a goal of a start, beat them 2-1.
That's why these kind of Balkan defenders are hired for their wary, wily ways.
And if you need any indictment at all of the K-League Classic, Incheon are now 5th in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's a bit unfair, right? Because third to
only an alphabetical order.
Third to 10th is a 2-point gap. So as we saw last week, Seoul scraped out a win, moved up from 10th to 4th temporarily. They've slipped down to 7th now. But
well, I mean, there are 5 teams on 15 points. With Seoul and Songnam choosing or not choosing, whatever, not to play this weekend, it does mean that obviously things will change pretty dramatically, I guess. I mean,
basically, if you look at the table, you've got Cheongbuk well clear in first, Suwon ahead of the pack in second.
Yeah.
You got Taejeon, who are an absolute pile of crap at the bottom, and Suwon just keeping clear of them, and everyone else is much of a muchness.
Busan just keeping clear of them.
Oh, sorry.
As much as you might wish Busan to be second bottom with it,
Suwon.
I think
Freudian slip.
I think some up, yeah. I mean, I think they kind of. I read recently on Twitter some of our Key League Twitterati friends comment about how the Key League is shite this year because it's so predictable. I mean, it's not predictable.
It's not predictable at all.
I mean, John Book winning the league is predictable. Fine, fair enough, whatever. But I think everything after that is kind of really close. And right now,
first and 12th is relatively predictable. Everything else is up in the
yeah. And I think everything
Second's
else
looking pretty predictable as well at the minute with Suwon.
Suwon will collapse in a month or so. Don't worry.
But it just takes. I mean, the thing about Suwon is they're not playing this weekend. So I mean, if Jeju win, they're within 2 points of them. Do you know what I mean? So it's like things are going. I mean, things are a little bit closer than it looks. But I think definitely the 5 teams on 15 points, and then 2 teams on 14, 1 on 13. I mean, that's just like one victory away from a massive change in the table.
Yeah.
So I think for somebody to call it predictable,
I guess
it's a little bit annoying, to be honest, because it looks like the best season I've seen for a long time in the K League.
I think the problem is it's a lot of teams in the middle who are very close, and then you've got a big gap to the team at the bottom and a big gap to the team at the top, and that's what makes it look. It's predictable in terms of the who's going up, who's going down. It's not predictable in terms of the.
It's predictable in the fact that Seoul are going to win because that's the way it's worked out for the last however many years.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned Seoul there, Paul. I heard at least one of your goals went in this weekend.
One of them crossed the line at least, yeah.
3 of them crossed the line.
So first of all, 3-0.
3-0.
How did
result, yeah.
Was Che getting annoyed on the sidelines at your team trying to score a goal? I guess after you'd already got one.
Well,
I think to be generous to Choi, he tried his best to let John Nam come back into it in the second half. They gave John Nam about 5 clear-cut chances in the second half, but they managed to miss them all.
Steve-O and another couple of guys missed a bunch of chances. I really couldn't have complained if John Nam had won 5-3. Unfortunately, their finishing was terrible, so we won 3-0.
And
3 legitimate goals.
Was it a deserved 3-0 victory though? I mean, you said there you couldn't be disappointed if they come back into the game, but do you think over the 90 minutes, was it deserved? I mean, take off your FC Seoul jersey. No, actually, don't keep it on. But
It doesn't have to be asked twice.
But I mean, without your FC Seoul glasses on, let's say, do you think Seoul deserved to win the game? I mean, even though Jeonnam were a better team second half and came into it, they didn't score.
I wouldn't say they were a better team. They had decent chances which they didn't take.
I mean, better than the first half. I mean, not better than FC Seoul.
They were better in the second half than they were in the first half. Yeah, I mean,
quick the Paul.
got
It's
no
a
idea what to
dramatic
say.
pause. He's ratcheting up the tension.
It's a
Whatever he says, whatever Paul says next is going to be something very profound and very.
It's going to be the word yes.
When the seagulls follow the trawlers. They're always looking for the sardines or whatever the fuck he said.
Brilliant. Let's move on.
So,
Paul,
in terms of Seoul, you haven't lost for 4 games now. You haven't lost.
You haven't lost
Is-
for like 4
Has
days.
something changed, or is it just poorer opposition?
It's not even poorer opposition. It's just about if you go back to the opening games of the season against Pohang, Ulsan, Suwon, Chonbuk,
They were just better than you.
they were teams that were getting chances and taking them, and then recently we've been playing against teams that have been getting loads of chances but not taking them. That's the sole difference. I mean, Seoul is still
Soul difference. Well done.
Seoul difference.
Fantastic. That's
Seoul
the
is still
soul
the same
difference.
team. They're
That's the sole reason
The defence is
Seoul are doing
easily
better.
cut open. If you've got a decent striker, you'll get several chances to score goals. It's just that Cheonnam.
What if you got Park Ji-young? Does it still count?
You saw the replay of his goal this week. It was a decent goal. It was a goal that none of the other Seoul strikers would have got. Because after,
I think I'm just spoiled by watching good strikers every week.
but I mean,
Speaking of British,
I mean, come on, right? Let's take the Seoul performance. 3 goals, right? The first goal.
Didn't go in, so we can write that off.
No. It was.
If it doesn't go in, it doesn't count as a goal, Paul. We can write that off.
Second goal's an own goal.
No, I'm still. The first goal, it was so far over the line. It actually went around the globe, came all the way back around, and landed on the line. That's how far it was over the line. It was like a whole circumference of the globe minus 10 centimetres.
There was some Kazakhstani linesman twitching in his grave, putting his flag up, saying.
The second goal, that was an own goal.
So basically what you're saying is the big difference between Seoul being second bottom of the table and
As linesmen,
sixth in the table is
referees and linesmen, yeah.
some brown envelopes from GS.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
No, we are.
That's what we're saying, yeah.
You're saying that.
Because even if you chalk off the first goal with your anti-Seoul blinkers on, you still have won 2-0.
That's the point there. Like,
But
like 3 minus 1 is still 2. Even
but
though the second one was an own goal.
the second one was it wasn't even it.
And John had 5 chances.
Byungji was like a cat.
The second
Hooked
one,
it out.
the second one was.
Hooked it out.
If Byungju didn't
Yeah.
have to carry the weight of his 80s mullet, he might have kept the second one out, but it was just kind of...
What he should have done
Obviously
is
he's
twitch his head to
plus
like.
he's like his 45-inch waist as well. I think it's gonna hold him down a little bit as well. Yeah.
I mean, at the age of 46 or 47, whatever he is, his back must be giving him a bit of jip to get down to those low saves, right?
But still he managed it.
Well, he clearly didn't. He was like half a second too late.
But I also like the fact that even if he had have saved it, the defender then handballed it about 3 times.
That was the thing. Yeah. It was like, he saved it. They didn't save it. Didn't save it. Pathetic. I think we should also comment on the fact that I think, Gary, as you mentioned like, before the podcast started, I know we're running out of time here, but like very interestingly, that even the FC Seoul's third goal, when it was like Park Chu-young against 2 defenders, and one defender tackles him and kind of gets the ball, and the other guy slides away past the first defender.
The other guy gambled that the sliding tackle wasn't going to pay off and did exactly the same
sliding tackle, yeah.
And he'd have been better bet just staying on his feet and calmly clearing the ball away.
But having said that, after Park Ji-young scuffed his initial shot, he did well to get back up, recover the ball from the 2 defenders and whack it past Kim Byung-ji.
I think maybe what happened there was it was a little bit like God playing Sabuto, and the God actually flicked the second defender past the first one so Park Ji-young could score. Maybe that's what it was like, a little bit like the hand of God Maradona goal.
Could be.
Steve, you want to move on, don't you?
Yes.
I can tell by your face. Like even your beard is twitching. Shut up, let's go.
I just
Late
want
bus,
to get
late
home
bus.
before my 2 a.m. bus. All right, so I think that wraps up the review then of the classic. I guess then at that point we have to move on to the real league, as always, and talk about some of the challenge games that happened over the last couple of rounds actually.
I think we should do a reader survey and see if people are actually interested in listening to this challenge league that you speak of. that I've
Okay,
never-
then if you're interested in the challenge, please get us on Twitter at
@KLeague_podcast.
Alright, so we'll move on to the K-League Challenge then, but I guess, well, maybe we should just stop before we do and talk about, there was 3 FA Cup games last week.
Two
How
that
did they pan out?
Two that we got completely right, one that we got horribly wrong, as far as I remember.
That's pretty good for us, to be honest, in terms of predictions.
Predicted
We
3 home.
predicted 3 home wins.
Hwasong 1-1.
Hwasong.
Ulsan Dolphins 1-0, and
Suwon Blue Wings won minus whatever the hell the penalty shootout was.
Suwon lost in penalties.
4-3, 5-3.
4-3, I think. I think it was 4-3, yeah.
4-3 or 4-2, yeah.
So, has anyone got anything to say about Suwon losing on penalties?
And that was it, really.
Steve?
And
That was
it.
the review.
Stevie? Come on.
What?
You didn't say anything then.
I didn't say anything then, no.
Kim.
I'm waiting for Seoul losing on penalties.
Again.
They did that last year.
I see they managed to blow a 2-0 lead with about 25 minutes to go as well.
Chung Dae-se, the upstanding Korean citizen that he is, scored twice. And then Cheonnam came back to equalise, one of which was a particularly poor goal given away by Chung Sung-rong. I mean, he let a goal in between his near post and his left hand with the guy took it sort of on really with a really narrow angle. It shouldn't have been a goal at all, but
I think the famous quote was Alan Hansen, you don't win anything with kids. I think I'll go on record and say you don't win anything with Jung.
I'd agree with that. I mean,
He's a terrible keeper, isn't he? I don't know why Suwon keep picking him. He's an absolutely terrible keeper. He's sold the jerseys in the World Cup. He's sold the jerseys for Suwon several times.
I mean,
He should be hounded out of the country.
it's interesting
Made
that
to sign for Celtic.
that almost happened last season as well. It's interesting that they were sitting second, and we talked about how like maybe the cup was their best chance of success depending on the league and blah 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 and the ACL. Jung comes in, they're at the cup. Would you play Jung next week against Kashiwa? Really? Or would you go back to no?
Well, I mean
no did them well through the group stages. Would you really bring Jung back in again? The guy who, like, as Stevie said, has like sold the jerseys on so many occasions. I would be really.
He let in a really dodgy goal. He didn't save a single penalty, but he still kept his place for the weekend. So whether that's the Seo-jong-won, the manager, keeping him.
I don't know what anyone sees in Jung. He was still the national team first choice for a long time when he was terrible. He's been Suwon's first choice for a long time. I don't know what anybody sees. He's a dreadful keeper.
Yes, but he is still capable of pulling off some absolute world-class saves. He reminds me of De Gea in his first year at Man United.
No.
Just let me finish.
He's David Besson. He's Dave Besson.
Well,
Massimo Taibi.
Let me go with De Gea. De Gea was shocking in his first few games at Man United.
Yeah, but Jong's not in his first year. He's been like.
I'm making a comparison as to what I think.
Okay,
he
let
is right now.
Mark finish. We'll see where he's going
I'll let you finish, then I'll tear it down.
Just
Mark,
like your hair.
Speak.
30 seconds.
So, like, Jung, like.
Countdown clock is running. 10 seconds have gone. You've not said anything
Paul,
yet.
stop being a cock.
Just like a Scottish referee in Asia, mate, you might get headbutted soon. So basically, like Jung, like for me, is a guy who can pull off a world class save. He can make those like gravity defying saves at times.
I'd agree. He can do the Hollywood stuff, but he doesn't have the basics.
But like De Gea in his first season at Man United, he looks a poor keeper. He looks a keeper devoid of confidence. He looks a keeper who like never looks like he should be in a team as big, or whatever you would call him, as Suwon is. I think Jung would be better playing in a team like Incheon or Daejeon, where he's not expected to like save the team every single game. Where he's not expected to be a world class keeper, and I think that's his problem. I mean, like
I'll go for my second indictment of the K League of the night. The fact that Kim Young Kwang's playing in the Challenge and Jung is playing in the Classic.
You could swap those players around.
You could swap them round,
Any
and
day of the
Suwon would be half a dozen points better off.
Yeah, well, not really because Noah's been playing, but by the end of the season,
At the end of the season, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And if Suwon don't finish second, or if they end up having a horrendous run, or as Paul said, they capitulate and they fall apart, it will almost certainly be down to Jung.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say if they play Jung in the ACL, they'll go out.
They're out, definitely, 100%.
And now that we've said that, he'll probably play a stormer in the two games, but...
I mean, like last year I criticised him a lot, and then he came back in for the fourth super match of last year, and he did play a blinder, but on the whole he's not really believable, and I'm sure...
Wasn't he the keeper against Algeria? I could be wrong there, so just tell me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he the keeper against Algeria?
Christ, it took him like...
He was against Russia.
10 or 11 months ago now.
When he palmed that ball back into the Russian forward.
No, he was. I'm pretty sure he was against Algeria as well.
He was against Russia. I know he was against Russia.
Game where they lost confidence in him. It was the third game.
Third game
changed
changed.
the keeper.
Yeah, I thought it changed as well. Yeah.
I'm sure a friend of the podcast, Weka, would say that Kim Young-dae is a far better goalie than Chung Sung-rong.
I'm a far better
You know
goalie.
what? I might even agree that Kim Young-dae is a better keeper than Jung Sung-rong.
Kim Young-dae had a dodgy period 2 years ago.
But I wouldn't put Kim probably even in my top 6 Korean goalies. But I don't know why Jung is even anywhere near the national team. He's a poor goalkeeper.
As I said,
In terms of
he
the
builds
basics,
up world-class saves every now and again.
he can do the Hollywood stuff. But I honestly think it's because he's a big guy. He's tall, so I think they think he kind of fills the goal well, and he can probably compete for crosses. But he's really poor on crosses, despite his stature.
I mean, for me, for a team like Suwon, who want to be challenging at the beginning of the season for the 3 competitions, their best bet in the FA Cup was to keep Noah in goal. He'd played well so far. I mean, he'd kept him like in the ACL and so on. And I think to just like unceremoniously drop him and bring in Jung, he was pretty poor, as Paul said in that game. It'll be interesting to see it. I mean, if they play him, as you said, Steve, if they play him in the ACL next week, that could be the turning point. That could be the big thing about between 3 and 4 teams going through.
And I think as well, it doesn't help that, they're doing this whole thing of switching their keeper round about every now and again. It's like we've got one keeper for the ACL, one keeper for the league, and
But Sunderland
you
did that
play
as well
two
at the
games,
weekend.
you drop, you bring another guy in.
I mean, like at the
That's not
weekend,
helping anyone.
the weekend, Sunderland dropped Park after like dropping 2 goals against Pohang. The second one was horrendously bad.
I can understand it though if you get a bad game,
He's had a bad season.
then you put somebody else in.
I
But
mean,
it's-
It's a nonsense rotating your goalkeeper unless there's like a second cup competition. If you don't care about the cup, maybe rotate the goalkeeper. But you look at the best teams, and they will always pick the main goalie for all the big games.
Yes. But you guys were at Seoul World Cup Stadium. I mean, you guys were in the far away end. I was in the Sunderland end, so I saw the actual Seoul goal. I mean, that Seoul goal was horrendous. It was a simple corner that came in, and Park Jung-hyuk went up, flapped at the ball, and scored. The guy headed it down, and they got a terrible goal to lose.
Kim Hyun-sung.
Yeah, I mean, terrible goal to lose from a Sunderland
we
point
said
of
at the
view.
time, right? If he was a decent striker, he would have done a bullet header into the top of the goal. But he screwed up his header. It went down into the ground and bounced up, and it's
But
like
Park was all over the place. I mean, the Park was a mess,
And that- I
he
mean-
was dropped. Like, I mean, he played in Gamba, lost 2 goals. He played Pohang, lost 2 goals, and now he's been dropped eventually.
Which is fine if you drop your goalie. It's like you say, okay, you've had a bad run of form, we're going to try the other guy.
But to bring in
what you
Johnson
don't do
wrong
is
immediately.
which is the guy that
switch them around all the time.
Which is the guy that came on in the cup final last year and saved penalties? The guy that's been dropped, or the guy that's come?
He didn't come on. That was the problem.
Oh yeah, right. The guy that
They were bringing the older guy on, but it wasn't allowed.
so they
Park was
didn't
the
have getting
goalkeeper.
it. So the guy that's
Park
just been dropped is the guy that actually saved penalties last year.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's the same as Sol. Who's your first choice goalie now? It's
Do you
not
know?
entirely clear.
The first choice goalie is that guy in the goalie kit with his massive flag, just constantly waving it in front of all the fans behind the goal. He's there every week.
I mean, when you get to
Kim
the point,
Jong-nam.
when the fans don't know who the first choice goalie is,
He's got
that
2
suggests
banners. He's got
there's
a hoodie,
something wrong.
I mean,
There's something wrong with the team
actually,
selection.
Wednesday went through a
something.
period of this a few years ago, right, where they had 2 sort of semi-decent keepers and they chopped and changed all the time, and it didn't really work out at all.
You just gotta kind of stick your neck out. You've got to say, like Mourinho did. It's like, right, Courtois, you're taking over from Czech.
Yeah.
Give him confidence. It shouldn't have it on a whim. One game here,
they
chop and
shouldn't be
change.
changing
You've
it.
gotta,
I mean, this is what's happened here. I mean, like, there was nothing wrong with the guy who was deputising for Jung. When Jung was injured, this guy came in, and okay, the guy's lost goals, but I mean, he's lost goals against like top opposition. He's lost goals against Jung.
Every goalie's going to
well,
lose a
right?
goal.
He's lost goals. I mean, like, he's lost goals against Seoul, Jeonbuk, Pohang.
He said
So
top
on.
opposition and he said Seoul. So.
I mean,
Although
theoretically,
that sounds to me like that he, the guy, he was injured, so they had the reserve keeper, but they just wanted an excuse. Like it sounds like the manager has faith in the first choice keeper, even if you don't think he should.
but
It seems to me like he knows.
if he was a
You don't just bring him
striker,
back
right?
in again. That's the thing. You don't just bring him straight back in. Like, oh, he's fit, bring him back in again. That's crazy. And the guy has done nothing wrong. They wait until Noah has a bad game.
Yeah.
I mean, Noah, if Noah had given away conceded 3 goals in the FA Cup, then fine, bring in Jung for this weekend.
I
But
wouldn't
bring
drop
Jung in.
I wouldn't drop him for an FA Cup game against the team who expected.
This
to
is the
beat.
difference between
You drop him
strikers and
maybe for a
goalies,
big
right?
game.
A striker, if your main striker's injured and he's out, so you bring in a reserve striker, he scores a hat trick, he scores a goal, he scores 2 goals, you're not going to drop him just because the main striker's suddenly fit again, are you? But this is the difference between goalies and strikers.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, I hate Seoul anyway, so I don't really give a shit.
So you're quite happy if they
I'm quite happy. Like,
Yeah, I'd love to see Jung playing every week and letting in dodgy goals, but
in terms of like Korean teams progressing in the ACL, I think if right now, if they play Jung against Kashiwa over those 2 games, that will seriously dent their chances of going through.
yeah, I'd agree with that.
So that was a pretty in-depth coverage of the FA Cup, which segued into the ins and outs of the goalkeeper situation at Suwon. Right, so should we move on then?
I mean, just to get back to the FA Cup, Chong let in a dodgy goal for Cheonnam's equaliser. When it came to the penalty shootout, the Cheonnam goalie saved one. I think someone
Okay, thanks, Paul. That was a lovely coverage of the FA
whacked
Cup.
one against the. Oi!
Hey,
What?
we're not having any more audience in this.
Yeah. Bring back Jesus, at least he was quiet.
So basically,
what we're saying is Suwon are out,
and John Shite,
and Hwasong have got a clear path through to the final.
unless they play someone
Seoul.
good like
Seoul.
So
Like
in this
Songnam.
case, they'll get them.
Someone good or someone negative, like Seoul or Songnam.
Right, guys, I guess we've got to stop the chat about goalkeepers there. I think we can all agree, Jung, not very good.
I think so, yeah.
And we'll move on to the K-League Challenge.
It's a bit weird that we just spent 10 minutes discussing something we all agree about.
Well, it's not that weird if you've listened to any of the podcasts in the past. But we'll move on to the K-League Challenge. And the mighty Seoul Eland won 4-0 against Chungju.
Wait.
Well, wait. Before you say anything, we have to apologise if at any point in this we may have referred to them as Chungju. They are, in fact, Chungju. Chungju. And we've been informed by a resident of Chungju that they want nothing to do with them.
Could you explain the pronunciation? Chungju.
Chungju is different from Chungju. So,
And
Chungju
the
is
really
right.
bad team are from Chungju, right?
We know the pronunciation different, we just don't know which is which.
Chungju Hummel.
What? I think Chungju is doing like they're out of the. I don't know. Okay, I'll bye.
Standing ovation.
That's better than he contributes.
And if only we'd all done that on the podcast in week 1, we'd have such better lives.
But I think
Alright, bye.
I think Steve's trying to distract from a problem here, that he's trying to skip over a match that he confidently predicted that.
No, I'm trying to
Eland would
skip
win
over a
last
match
week.
that I confidently can say I saw nothing of.
You said in last week's podcast that Seoul Eland would beat
Would beat
Kangwon
Kangwon
handsomely
in Gangnam
in Gangnam in Chamshil,
comfortably.
and you clearly went on the.
And then I said, and I'll report back next week with news of our heavy defeat. And I was right.
So I heard you took advantage of the unlimited ale night to obliterate memories of the poor performance put in by Eland, but can you give us a summary?
Well, I'll give you a summary. 15,000 won, as much as you could drink ale. That was the summary of the whole game. Can you imagine that back home? For 10 quid, you can drink as many beers as you like in the stadium, on the side of the pitch. They'd set up a little bar area.
Also,
on the
for
side of the
8 quid,
pitch.
you can see
Yeah,
no
Stevie.
football at all.
If that happened back home, right, you would probably have been accosted by like an American or someone giving you a hard time about being nasty about a football team.
What have you
that
got
would
against
never.
an American?
But that would never happen in Korea.
No, well, yes, I was accosted after the game by a guy
Ferret.
doesn't like the word ferrets. But I have to admit, he came up to me on Saturday night. He did apologise for his behaviour.
But he was a twat in the photo.
We're all
so-
friends now.
Oh, you're all friends now? Wow.
No, we're all Wednesday, aren't we?
I thought we're all drunk.
We're all Neil Lennon. Anyway, so Stevie, you lost 4-2,
We lost 4-2 midweek.
but you surely bounced back at the weekend, yeah?
Absolutely. You know what? To be honest, we lost 4-2 midweek. I wasn't even really that bothered
Well, because you were really trashed.
because I was really trashed.
Right, so
But no, I was. The whole thing I think Martin Rennie's trying to do with Eland is just get them just playing attacking football, absolutely going for it, taking chances, taking risks. So I reckon if you're going to go forward and take chances and take risk, every now and again you're going to lose one.
So he's
Badly.
a bit like Ronnie Delia.
He's a bit like Ronnie Delia, except he's got a good players and a good team.
No, he doesn't. That's the problem there. Okay. He has no Scott Brown.
But I mean,
Okay.
they lost 4-2, right?
They lost 4-2, but they had 60% of possession. They had more shots than the opposition. It was literally everything Kangwon hit towards the goal.
It's
was a
basically
goal.
the opposite of what I was saying about Seoul just now, right?
I wasn't listening to what you said about Seoul just now.
You wanker. What I said about Seoul just now is that the opposition had more chances, but they were very profligate. And what you're saying is that the opposition had more chances and they took them all.
I
and won.
don't
Saying the
think.
opposition had less chances.
Paul Carver pulling out the word profligate after 7 beers. That's pretty amazing.
That's a private school education for you.
Yeah.
You must have been an accountant in a previous life. Before
I'm
you were jobless.
I'm a private school educated accountant, yes.
So you're a twat. Stevie, what other scores were there in midweek? I know that Anyang played Bucheon. Did you see any other scores in the challenge?
I mean, yeah, if Elan slipped up, someone else may have taken advantage of
What?
that.
I mean, to be honest, there wasn't a hell of a lot of change. Daegu slipped up a bit at Ansan. They didn't win. Anyang got a draw at Bucheon. We lost, obviously, quite heavily. I think the only team that really, probably, well, two sides that actually made a difference. Sangju got a 5-0 away at Goyang, so Sangju kind of re-established their credentials as the leaders. And the only other game, quite a surprise, Gyeongnam lost at home to Chungju. So that sent, at the time, Gyeongnam right down at the bottom of the league yet again. And I think our listener, Mr. Edrupt, was less than happy to be losing to Chungju, and I can
imagine.
I can understand it after having seen Chungju play. Losing at home to them is not a good result.
The only thing worse would be losing to Cheongju, but losing to Cheongju.
This is why we shouldn't have guests.
What? Okay.
There's lots of Chungju.
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 The K3 Chungju.
Chungju.
Versus Chungju.
So, Stevie, obviously we move on to the weekend, and I'm guessing Eland made up for their horrendous home defeat by maybe
A tremendous home win.
Yeah, did they do that?
Yep, 4-0 against Chungju.
Ah, sweet. 2 weeks ago we had James Rodriguez goal being replicated. Did we have like a David Beckham free kick, or did we have like a Jim Bett free kick? Back in the days?
In the Chungju game, no, we didn't. But well,
He did score though, right?
Jim Bett? No.
Jim Bett
died 4 years ago.
Jumes did score. He scored a nice goal, but no, actually the one that he did score, there was a the Kangwon game. In the Kangwon game, he pulled another little stunt out of his box of tricks.
Was that a stunt?
A stunt, definitely a stunt.
A cunning stunt.
He's on the halfway line, slid in, took the ball off the opposition, turned round, took a step, fired the ball in from the halfway line,
Goal, yeah.
and it hit off the bar. And the
Tarabai.
keeper was absolutely lost, and Tarabai was just like,
Tarabai.
"Thank you very much." Nodded it into the net while the keeper was still trying to stand up.
That's against Gangwon, yeah?
That was against Gangwon.
Did you get the assist for it?
Yes.
Okay, nice.
And then against Chungju, he scored another goal. No, but since Saturday, I've started the hashtag Daehan Minkyu to get Ju Minkyu into the Korean squad
Got to get Dayan in the
for the East Asian Cup.
It's not working, was it?
Well, I've got at least me involved in it, so.
It would, like, you have to admit, I mean, of all the players that could get in there, I mean, obviously, I think I also saw you tweet about Wang Yizhou. I think definitely that Wang Yizhou could be there, like Minkyu could be there.
But when it comes to the
Kim
East Asian Cup, it's got to be people who play in the East Asian Conference. So it's got to be Japan from the Japan League or China League or the K League. So the top Korean scorer in Korea is either Yom, who's 59 now,
159.
or Ju Min-kyu. So if you're going to pick someone to score goals, if you're going to pick Mr. Lee from Sangju, you got to pick Ju Min-kyu,
Okay,
who
cool.
scored much more goals than him.
Speaking of Sangju, how did Sangju do at the weekend? Did they win? Did they lose? Did they? Because they were playing the mighty Anya.
They won again, yeah. Sadly, sorry Austin, I know you're listening. But it was 3-2 to Sangju against Anyang at the weekend. And they've gone, I think they're now up at the top of the table, and they're a point ahead of Daegu with a game in hand, so Sangju are looking to be the team to catch.
But their record over the last 5 games is the same, right? 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss.
Yeah, Sangju have been a bit weird though, because Sangju seem to have they've not won the games that you would have thought they would have won easily.
Actually, if you look at the top 4 teams,
Top
right,
four, the
they're
same
all
record.
exactly the same record. They've got a different order, but
Yeah.
3 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw over the
Yeah,
last 5
I mean
games.
the league
so-
overall is incredibly close.
But they could involve each other, which could be the big difference in points. Technically.
Twat.
I'm just saying, they could involve each other.
Because
But I think, I mean, looking at the top of the table, it's going to be pretty tight.
Yeah, I mean the other game that was a bit of a surprise. Daegu were top of the league. They were
Humped.
at home to Suwon,
Humped.
and
yeah.
they lost 4-1.
Can we say the word humped just one more time on the podcast?
Daegu were humped by Suwon, which, considering Seoul had humped Suwon just 2 or 3 weeks previous, was a bit of a shock.
I don't think.
What are we talking about here?
I thought Seoul got humped
Seoul
by
Elan
Suwon.
versus
Okay.
Suwon.
Sorry. As
Proper
opposed to-
Seoul versus proper
As opposed
Suwon.
to FC Seoul versus the chicken wings, yeah? So Stevie, a lot of talk at the beginning of the season was that Eland were going to be the team to come up, like immediately, like first season, they're going to get promoted. Maybe not win the league, but get promoted. We all talked about, on the forum and stuff about how they would maybe romp the league, especially after signing Glory and so on. Do you think now it's looking like a possibility? I mean, they're sitting fourth. They seem to be. Yes, they lost midweek, but they seem to be like putting results together. Do you think maybe they can actually do this? Do you think they can get up first season?
Now it's looking definitely a possibility. I think.
Can I just interject here? When you're
No.
saying it's looking.
No.
When you say it's looking like a possibility, is that you talking as a serious football fan? Is that you talking through your beer goggles?
That's me talking as a serious football
It's
fan.
beer goggles, isn't it?
No.
Beer goggles.
Well, let them finish and maybe we'll find out.
No,
goggles.
having now seen I think I've seen every single team in the league play. I would say.
Football friend.
I would say, on paper, on
Paper, fourth.
what was that? Bring these.
You speak when you're spoken to.
On paper, or at least in terms of kind of playing history, I think we've maybe got the best squad of players. The one positive thing, there's been a few guys who've come into the squad that nobody expected anything of. Guys like Ju Min-kyu, guys like Kim Young-gun, who came from J2, they came from Goyang. Nobody expected anything of them, and they've actually turned up and contributed a hell of a lot.
So where did Minkyu come from? Was it J2?
No, Min-kyu came from Goyang. So, I mean, there's 2 guys for me that's kind of saying Martin Rennie's got something about him, that if he's scouted these guys and he's picked them out, Kim Young-gun and Ju Min-kyu, to pick those 2 guys out and say, I fancy them, they look like something, and what they've contributed actually gives me a bit of faith in Martin Rennie. The other thing that gives me a bit of faith in Martin Rennie is the fact that the team are they're attacking. They're taking chances, they're taking risks, they're going forward. I mean, at times against Chungju, we were playing 2 at the back, and you don't see teams actually do that in the challenge in any league. I think we'll win a lot of games. I think we'll probably lose games as well, where you don't expect, like Gangwon, where we were a better team, we deserved to win, but we lost. I think we'll do that a lot. The only question for me is whether maybe a more solid team like Sangju, at the end of the day, are going to take the title.
So, I mean, if you were faced against a classic team, so like in the next, like in the playoff. So if you guys finish second or finish
They took Ulsan all the way right in the cup.
So that's my
I mean,
point,
based on the teams I've seen so far, I wouldn't have any
Busan,
qualms about taking on Daejeon or Busan
I mean, these are going to be relative.
Songnam.
or
I mean, these are going to be down straight away. So you'd imagine it'd be like a Busan or Songnam
I mean,
or FC Seoul.
There's
That's the 3 teams you're looking at. Yeah,
There's a lot of teams that I think
behind you maybe.
a lot of teams I think we can take on and win. Probably the teams I would be more nervous of is the ones who are really organised. They like the Songnams of the world. I think would probably out-organise us, because I think we're still a little bit too freeform. And I think if we came up against a team who were really well organised, really could defend a game, I think we'd end up losing 1-0.
I think
if it's an open game, a Gwangju or a Busan, I think we'd have a good chance.
Okay.
I think you hit on the right tactics, though. You should go for the win. You should try and I see, especially you see the K League, the top division. There's so many draws in the league. There's so many teams who play 5 across midfield, and they don't want to commit men forward. They just want to pass it around in midfield. It's being direct and being a bit more attacking is the way to go. So that's the right tactics.
I mean, clearly you had a very slow start, right? So once we get into the second round of matches, where you're playing teams you've already played before, are you confident of beating teams that you didn't necessarily beat before?
I am actually, because the slow start, the team looks totally different now. The team, I admit it's maybe because Tarabai's up front. It's a different system. We're not playing the long balls up to Ryan Johnson that we played in the early games. But
It's Bobby.
Bobby came back at the weekend as well. He wasn't the brightest, but
Wasn't the darkest either.
well,
Tarabai looks like a player, yeah?
Did everyone-
Tarabay looks a bit, but I think the biggest changes is just the whole team is just more attacking focused. They're more about let's see what we can do to score a goal rather than let's sit back and defend.
So
I know one of the things we did that was really cost us a lot was in the first round of games when we scored a goal, we sat back and we just tried to defend and try to defend the lead. Now when we score a goal, we don't sit on a 1-0. We push
Just go for
forward
it, yeah.
and try and go
So
and get
last
a
time
goal as well.
when we talked to a good friend of the podcast, Martin Rennie, he said he had the team almost whipped into the shape he wanted, and we'd soon see good things from them.
Yeah.
You'd agree with that?
It's looking that way. It's looking like they're playing a different style to a lot of the teams that we see, and you see that in the goals. But it could go either way. I mean, it's so open that we're going to lose games, and it just depends if we win more games than we lose at the end of it.
So that's enough of a sort of wank fest about Elan this weekend. What other matches were there?
I don't think there were any.
That was it. I think that was all, wasn't it?
So Elan have played one more game than everyone else, have they? Not according to the league table I'm looking at.
I would say that K-League probably needs a team to play completely different tactics, do something different, because the number of teams I've played, it's either 4-5-1 or 4-3-3 with pretty much the same formation.
Yeah.
They
I
need
mean,
a team who are
we've joked in the past about Martin Rennie using the Elan position as a position to leverage himself up to somewhere in the K-League Classic. Do you think Martin Rennie would do a good job at FC Seoul, or
I think you do a dreadful job at FC Seoul.
by getting them to win the title?
Probably. Yes. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, I don't know how much of the whole thing Martin Rennie is in charge of. So you've got to say who's done all the scouting, who's identified the players, who's signed the players. But if Martin Rennie has genuinely signed all the players and identified them, there's
Martin Rennie definitely put in the miles beforehand, right? Going here, there, and everywhere, looking at players, and you'd assume he developed a list of players he'd like to sign. But
what I find interesting is like on the. I mean,
I think the only thing we can do is get him on here and ask him directly, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that the Rock Football Forum is like any kind of bastion for like K-League football folklore or knowledge, but
there's a few bastions on there.
there's a few.
One of them right next to me right now.
I'm hardly on it, Chief. Shut up. But I think like one of the things I found interesting was that whenever Tarabay, correct me for my pronunciation one more time, whenever he was signed,
I think that was Darabai, according to your pronunciation.
the joke on the forum was like, well, Martin's now found out that he has to sign a Brazilian. Ha ha ha. He signed his own players, and now he's been the Brazilian force upon him. That was made by one or two different people on the forum, but by your own kind of admission today that he's the guy who's maybe turning it all around for you guys. Yeah, he's the one who's like seems to be a bit of a potential. So maybe Martin did actually scout him as well.
If Martin Rennie scouted all of these guys and signed them, then he's done a good job. And there's 3 or 4 guys that you say Tarabai, he's a player. Kim Jong-gun, he's a player. Ju Min-kyu, he's a player. And these were guys that nobody identified, had heard of before. I guess the only thing that's maybe in the negative column, I don't think the foreign players that Martin Rennie signed have done as well as maybe he hoped for. Other than Tarabai, Carly Mitchell's looked all right actually, but he's injured now, probably for 2 or 3 weeks. Bobby hasn't shown anything yet that makes me think he was a potential Northern Ireland cap. Ryan Johnson, if he's a sub for 20 minutes, he's okay, but starting the games, he's not doing a lot. So I guess there's pluses and minuses, but overall, I'm confident looking into the next round of games. Goyan is going to close off this round of games. I think Eland will do well. I think Eland will be higher in the league after the end of the next round of games than they are now.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about that in the preview towards the end.
Save that for the preview section, mate.
All right, so before we go then, let's take a look at the matches that are coming up at the weekend. The Classic's got a pretty short fixture list. There's just 4 games over the weekend.
Yep, two on Saturday, one on Sunday, one on Monday.
Does that mean Tejon have actually forfeited their game against Seoul?
I think it's been rescheduled for June 17th or June 18th, about that time.
13th.
As I said, about that time, yeah. I know that...
We're Seoul just scared of Daejeon's recent run of
Form.
semi-respectable form.
I think scoring a goal every now and again.
Yeah, so there's no Seoul, there's no Suwon, there's no Songnam, but Jeonbuk are playing, right?
Jeonbuk are playing, yeah.
Yes. So that's the first...
So that means that Incheon have been the bunch of...
Internet's...
the bunch of whacks that we know they are.
Yeah.
And they presumably refuse to reschedule their game.
We have to assume.
You assume that Jeonbuk must have asked. And
You'd
Incheon
have thought so,
presumably
yeah.
said no.
Unless Jeonbuk are confident of putting out
Beijing.
beating Beijing, who you would think they would be one of the hardest of the 4 games, to be honest.
Or confident of beating Incheon with a reserve side.
Yeah, or could have been
Either way.
Yeah. Either way.
That's the first game anyway. Jeonbuk taking on Incheon. Jeonbuk at home. I mean, Incheon have actually been on a pretty decent run of form.
Yeah,
they've won their last 3 games after not... I think they didn't win a game since October or something last year, and then suddenly they've won 3 on the trot. So
I mean, I've watched them twice this season. I watched them in the 1-each draw with Pohang at home, and then I watched them beat Jeju 1-0. And both games they deserved probably to win both games, to be honest. Like they played well against Jeju. Jeju should probably have scored just before Incheon won that game 1-0. So they've been pretty good. So
yeah, I saw them play Daejeon. I mean, they weren't great. They were better than Daejeon. But
yeah.
Not many teams you can't say that about better than Daejeon.
And they also went to Busan in the weekend and 1-1.
But they're not going to beat Jeonbuk, are they?
I mean, you
unless
Jeonbuk
so. Put the kids team out, they're not going to beat Jeonbuk.
You wouldn't have thought so, but at the same time, I mean, they are probably on a run. I mean, they're on a run of form. They're sitting like 5th in the league. That's the highest position that I ever remember Incheon being in the whole time I've been following K-League.
I mean, if you look at the win, draw and loss column, they've only lost twice all season so far. So that's the...
And it was the first...
Yeah.
2 of the first 4 games, I think.
So apart from Jeonbuk have only lost once, you've got Incheon and Songnam have lost twice each. That's the second best sort of loss record in the league.
Yeah.
They don't lose many, they don't win many.
The draws that are...
They seem to lack a killer instinct which can... Yeah. I mean, there was like their first game of the season was against Gwangju, right, where Gwangju got a last-minute equaliser.
Yeah, 2 each, yeah.
So you've seen them chuck points away that way. And they're sitting 5th at the moment. Do we think this can continue going forward? I mean, are they going to be in the top half of the split come September?
In a word? No.
In a word, no.
I think they'll bottle it again. I think they'll drop down. I think, unfortunately, so will Songnam as well. And I think you'll see the usual suspects in the top 6 come the split. But I think it's good right now. We have 2 citizens teams.
Yeah, but it's so tight. It's so tight at the minute that a win rockets you 3 or 4 places up the league. So
it's also quite interesting that Incheon are sitting above Songnam on alphabetical order.
Yeah, but exactly the same.
There's no other reason for it.
Time to toss a coin. Time to toss a coin.
Yeah,
because
they actually drew at home. They actually drew when they played. They drew nothing each when they played each other as well. So they're actually sitting above Songnam only in alphabetical order. I don't think I've ever seen that.
There you go. Will that still be the case on Saturday night?
Well, no, because Songnam are not playing, so no matter what happens, it'll be different.
Exactly.
You have to imagine, yeah.
So Incheon will either be up or down or somewhere different.
Exactly. So what are you going for, Mark? You boldly predicting an Incheon away win?
Not an away win. I think they could probably snatch a draw if Jeonbuk are... I think it all depends on Jeonbuk Beijing on Tuesday night.
Okay.
I think if Jeonbuk...
So just to check, what's your prediction?
What am I predicting or what am I thinking?
What are you predicting?
I'm predicting a Jeonbuk victory.
And what are you thinking?
1 each.
And what are you believing?
Jeonbuk victory.
What are you guessing?
Incheon victory.
What are you surmising?
1 each. And what am I giving a shit about?
I'm going to go with Mark and say it's going to be a score draw. I think Jeonbuk will take their eye off the ball. They'll be a bit distracted. Some of the key players like Lee Dong-guk or Leonardo and Nino may spend some time on the bench. or get pulled early with a view to the Beijing game. So
I think it all depends on the scope of Beijing. I think if they beat Beijing 3 or 4-0, then they maybe play, like Lee Dong-gook and Nino and Leonardo.
Yeah.
But I think if that game's tight at all, they're going to drop them.
If they get a 0-0 draw, or heaven forbid they even lose, then
If they lose, yeah. But I mean, I think if you remember the FA Cup game, I can't quite remember who they played in the FA Cup game.
it's Goyang.
Goyang, it took
But
extra
they
time.
they benched Nino, Leonardo, I think, and then
Yeah.
brought them on and then
they-
won the game in extra time.
They really are reliant on that trio of foreign players, aren't they? So,
Definitely, yeah.
So we've got to wait and see what the John Book side is, but
and of course,
we don't see John Book losing anyway. It'll either be
No, they won't lose.
If they play a full strength team, we fancy them to win. If it's slightly weakened, we'll go for the draw.
I mean, Taejon went there last weekend and scored first. They couldn't close it out, but you'd imagine if Incheon did the same, they might have more hope of
I think
at
so,
least
yeah.
snatching a point.
Yeah. Also, remember there were some dead seagulls in the away end as well.
You never know. All right. So next up, I think the other Saturday game's Jeju versus Chunam. Any views on that?
Don't play it.
Never overestimate Chonam.
Never overestimate or never underestimate.
Overestimate.
Never overestimate Chunam.
If that game finishes anything other than nothing each, I'll wear my kilt next podcast.
Okay. Please, someone score a goal.
Anything other than nothing each, please don't anyone score. I think.
Come on, Yunbit, give us a goal.
No, seriously, though, I mean that game's probably got a draw written all over it. I would imagine. I think probably nothing each. I saw Jeju. I feel I've saw them 3 times this season. Maybe only it feels like 3 times.
But Jeju at home and Jeju away are a different proposition.
Yeah. Of course. I haven't seen them at home, but I think I still reckon it'll be a tight game. Dunham obviously got absolutely horsed by Seoul at the weekend. We won't get horsed twice in a row.
I was actually quite impressed by Jeju when I saw them against FC Seoul. They were set up quite well. They had good pace on the counter attack. They just can't defend crosses. They shoot themselves in the foot usually by every time they have to defend crosses. But they looked one of the better teams I've seen.
The thing is, they're a good team going forward when they believe or when they care. If they actually want to score, you get the feeling that they could. But in the game against Incheon, they just didn't really try anywhere near hard enough. And I think that's just Jeju across the board. They're just happy to be in the top 6, like 3rd, 4th. They're just happy with that kind of like mid kind of top group position, and I find them an incredibly frustrating team to watch.
So you're going for 0-0 written all over it?
No, I think so, yeah.
Talking about games that have got 0-0 written all over it, the next one up is Gwangju versus Busan.
I mean, I would say, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like Gwangju, this is their like 6th game at home in the trot, 5th in home in the trot now. I think they're actually at home now. I think they're actually
I
back
think
at
they've
home.
moved back.
They played at Gwangju
So
last
they've
weekend.
actually moved back to home, yeah.
And they had more fans at Mokpok though, looking at the video of last week's game.
But
And
Gwangju have been slowly dropping their way down the table.
They also seem to play that game in the 1990s. Looking at the video clip, they were.
The graphics were like something from the 1986 World Cup with very blocky.
Maybe that's Gwangju's strategy. They've invented a time machine. They're going to go back and play in the 1990s all their games.
I mean, like, they will remain at the very worst in 10th, because obviously even if Busan win, they won't top them.
Yeah. But I don't fancy that game to be particularly exciting. Busan are on a pretty dire run of form. Gwangju slipping down the table. I think both of them have only got kind of 1 win in 5. So
Yeah.
that's a 0-0. It's not going to get the fans suddenly deciding to stream into Gwangju to watch that, are they?
Will this be the game that sees Busan's manager fired? I think
Hopefully.
we probably need to start running a bet on who's going to get fired first. I can tell you it's not going to be Choi Young-soo, but
It's not going to be Jae-Young-soo, no. I think you're looking at probably either Daejeon or Busan. Definitely won't be Kim Hak-bum, Songnam of apart from having no money to replace him. The guy is pretty much masterminding cup victories for them, or cup results for them. Obviously, at the top of the table, there's no one there that looks like they could be fired. But yeah, so you've got to imagine that the Busan manager's first to go, I think.
I don't think we'll see it anytime soon, though. I think
I think that's Korean way, though, isn't it? That you don't,
Yeah,
they don't tend to fire
They don't
managers
tend to
at all.
overreact and do something after one round of matches.
Although they probably should do.
But looking at Busan, they should not firing is already underreacting.
Yeah. I mean, Busan were poor last season. They just avoided. They fallen into the playoff places by winning the last couple of games, and also the other teams being just downright rubbish around them as well. Like teams like Songnam and Gyeongnam and Incheon not playing particularly well, and Jeonnam not caring after the split. They give them a couple of points. So I mean, I think like Busan have been poor for a couple of seasons.
Is this an element of kind of the Korean culture that in Europe you have 20, 30,000 fans baying for the manager to be sacked, and it causes the chairman to panic? Whereas, I mean, I've been to Busan and they have the one temporary stand perched on the athletics track, and there's not kind of a braying crowd saying.
Well, you get the idea that maybe no one cares. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's a why sack a manager. There's no one beating down our door to.
You can imagine a huge chunk of the people that actually go to Busan games probably don't know who the manager is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you think it was 2 seasons back when Daejeon were stranded at the bottom of the league and they didn't sack their manager until they got near the end of the season. They changed them and then suddenly they started winning games.
Yeah.
Unlike Songnam, who had 3 managers last season. Although one of them was because he headbutted
Beat up his players.
he beat up his players, and then the second one was downright shit. So I guess that's maybe why they had 3 managers last season, yeah?
But in any case then, what do you reckon? Gwangju, Busan?
You know what, I'm going for a Gwangju victory just because I just think that they can't keep being rubbish. They are less rubbish than Busan.
You know it is the K-League. They can keep being rubbish for quite some time.
But I think my money goes on them being less poor than Busan.
Paul?
I'm going to say a draw. Scoreless or scored, I can't tell you, but it'll be a draw.
Although, just before I say that, I mean, actually, after I say that,
say it. Oh yeah, you already said
it should be noted that actually Busan have a far better away form than they have a home form. Like, Busan have won something like 3 of their 5 away games, and they've only won like 1 or 2 of their home games. So maybe Busan away from home is better.
Is that Busan with 2 wins all season, Mark?
Yep, it is. So those 2 wins are coming away from home then. But I think maybe I'm thinking of losses. But
What do you think then, Sean?
But I think Busan they're definitely better away from home by far. They've lost less points away from home than they have at home, so maybe they'll get a draw.
Maybe they'll get a draw, indeed.
Maybe they'll get a draw.
And then the last game of the round, it's the Monday fixture. Buddha's birthday, isn't it?
Yep.
Monday. We have
Buddha-mas.
Ulsan at home to Pohang. Two teams that have probably been pretty disappointing this season. I mean, they'd have hoped for more, wouldn't they? Ulsan have dropped down to 8th after looking like they might be challenging for the title. Pohang have not really done anything this season. They're sitting in 4th, but they seem to just be getting a string of not that great results.
I mean, we probably should have mentioned at the beginning of this section that this is round 12, so it's the first time that teams are playing each other for the second time. The Ulsan-Pohang game earlier in the season was where Pohang's defence and goalie completely screwed up and
Goalkeeper mainly, yeah.
gave Ulsan a couple of easy games, and that was when got a couple of easy goals. That was when Ulsan 4-2. That's when Ulsan were riding high. Ulsan have since
gone home.
They sort of dropped a bit since then. They had a storming start to the season, and they've sort of tailed off since then. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, I guess. I mean,
it's a game that on paper you think should be a good game, should be goals, should be pretty competitive, but Mark, what do you think?
I reckon Pohang will do the double. I think they
lost last time.
I haven't finished yet.
The double loss.
I haven't finished.
You better fucking say double loss.
So Mark, what do you think?
I think Pohang will beat them 1-0.
Paul, what do you think?
I think the result last time out was 4-2 to Ulsan away at Pohang. Obviously that was due to some defensive lapses by the Pohang team. I don't think it'll be as clear cut as that this time, so I'm going to go for a score draw, 1-1.
I'm going to go for Ulsan, just because they're at home. 2-1 Ulsan. Jeparov will score 2 of the same goals he always scores.
Yeah.
Dude, you're the host, you don't get an opinion.
I get an opinion sometimes. Alright, so that wraps up the classic games. I guess we should move on to the real league, the important one. A full round of the challenge fixtures, starting off with the mighty Seoul Eland going up to Goyang. That's got to be a 7-0 away win, hasn't it?
Yep. I mean, after this weekend, I guess Elan fans, must be pretty buoyed by their team. So yeah, going up to Goyang, you'd imagine. I reckon Elan are on a bit of a run right now. I think they might just be that team that we all thought they were going to be before they kicked the ball. So yeah, I'm going to put 2-0 Elan.
You're studiously ignoring that midweek defeat last week to Kangwon, who were pretty crap themselves.
I'm focusing on their bounce back on Saturday.
As far as I know, that never happened, that defeat, and I was there.
That's good. I'm sure you were there.
But you would have been accosted by calling things ferrets at that point in time, so you never know.
Given the amount you drink, I think I think you did well to avoid the 150,000 won soilage charge in the taxi going home.
You know it's a bad day when even some of the coaching staff are getting you on Twitter and saying you look as if you had a good night at the ale night.
Was that Brian?
No, that was Dan Harris. Dan Harris, superstar. But I mean, one thing, there should be goals. I think Eland are averaging something like 4 goals a game so far. Even when we lose 4-2. So I think our last games have been 5-1, 3-2, 4-2, and 4-0.
Mm-hmm.
So should be some goals. Goyang got beat quite heavily by Sangju the other week as well. It's 5-0. So
yeah, so
we'll
they
be looking to do that.
We talked about Goyang in the past, saying they've got crap attack, but they've got a brilliant defence.
They had a brilliant defence, and then they lost. They lost almost as
5-0.
many in one game against Sangju as they'd lost all the other games that season.
But even though Seoul Elan have got a relatively porous defence, can you see the stingy attack of Goyang taking advantage of that? I mean, when you say it's going to be a high-scoring game, is it going to be Elan putting a bunch of goals past Goyang with no reply, or is it going to be...
Hopefully.
But in reality...
Well, in reality, I mean, we went to see Goyang play Daegu, and they didn't really offer very much. But they had a few chances. But I could see Goyang scoring a goal at least, because to be honest, the way Elan play right now, it's really open. I think at the weekend it was 2 at the back at points. Kim Jae-sung was playing right back, more of a right winger than a right back. But so I could see us losing goals. Carlisle Mitchell probably is not going to be fit for the game, so I could see us losing a goal. But I think we'll outscore them. I think we'll probably score 3, 4, 7.
Go the Man City way.
We're going to score 1 more than you. That's the motto.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think Eland will win that one, definitely.
Paul, agree? Can you bring yourself to say your rivals are going to sneak a win?
What rivals? If Fat Steve's going to sing Vindaloo and say we're going to score more 1 than you, then who am I to disagree? Given that I've not seen this team play. I mean, when we went to see Goyang, they were bright enough for the first 20 minutes, but I felt like they were very quiet, weren't they? So, don't really have much else to say about that.
Okay, so that's maybe the biggest game, I guess. And Bucheon Gyeongnam is the second game of the round. That should be reasonably interesting. Gyeongnam have been pretty dreadful this season.
I find it pretty amazing that Bucheon are no longer bottom of the table. I mean, I've only ever known Bucheon to be bottom of the table in the challenge.
Yeah,
Bucheon. And then Gyeongnam came down.
Yeah. So I mean,
is there any way you can get kicked out of the challenge if you're consistently bad, or is
no? I don't think so. I think.
So did Eland replace anyone, or was it just?
No, they just added an extra team. That's why there's an odd number now.
Odd number.
Yeah. I mean, looking at it, if anybody's getting kicked out, Cheongju would be the favourites, because to me they look a bit like a K3 side.
Yeah, but points-wise, you've got the bottom 5 teams are 8, 8, 8, 9, 9. So
yeah. I mean, points-wise, it's not all in it. I went to the Gyeongnam game down in Goji. They actually looked a decent side. I think they're maybe just lacking in confidence or lacking in something, but they actually had some decent players.
A bit like Burnley, are they?
But Cheongju are pretty dreadful. They really not got a lot of quality in the side. Bucheon similarly don't have a lot of quality in the side. They've got a couple of Brazilians up front that maybe add a little bit.
But probably Rodrigo adding more than Almir adds.
Possibly just shading it.
Just shading it, yeah.
But Rodrigo's hair's not half as nice.
No, exactly. I mean, Almir can flick a blonde hair, definitely.
I mean, Cheongju were trying to be ambitious this year, right?
Yes.
Be ambitious.
They were being ambitious, and they got beat 4-0. So
yeah, you see, they've stuck to
were they too ambitious? Left too many gaps at the back.
Possibly. Or they're just not very good.
Shite. Instead of being ambitious. That might have helped him a lot more.
Being rubbish, you mean?
So,
No, shy. That's what I meant.
alright, so Bucheon Gyeongnam, what do you think, Mark?
I might go to that game actually. I might take it in. So I'm going to go for, if I take it in, it'll be nothing each. If I don't take it in, it'll be 2-1 Bucheon.
So, Paul, prediction, Bucheon versus Gyeongnam.
I've got no idea.
No idea. There we go.
Nor do I care.
Nor does he care. Okay. Next game up could be a Martyrs-esque scoreline, actually. Cheongju at home to Sangju.
5-0. To Sangju.
Yes.
So like 0-5, 0-5. Just to be clear there, yeah?
Yes, you have to think. If we put 4 past them, Sangju could probably put 5 or 6 past them.
Yeah, you think so?
And whenever you predict that in the challenge, it'll end up 1-0 to Cheongju.
Yeah.
It seems to be the way in that league.
I mean,
In that one game, I can't imagine it.
Cheongju have only conceded 12 after 9 games, so if you take 4 that they conceded against Elan, that means their defence is not that terrible in other games. Of course, Sangju have scored an absolute shed load, so...
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, that really should be a steamroller in Cheongju.
You definitely go for an away win, but I'm going to say 2-0.
Okay.
3-1.
Yeah. Okay, and then on to...
Just one. 2-0 or 3-1.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely one of them.
Fantastic.
We may mysteriously find it edited so Paul gets the right score.
That's what always happens.
And then on the Sunday we've got Suwon at home to Kangwon.
Home victory.
Should be, shouldn't it? Suwon well, with their man Frank Japa up front,
Well,
or Dweezil Japa, or Moon Unit Japa, or whichever one he is.
last week, Kangwon were also in the capital area, and someone said that'll definitely be a home win, and what happened?
I think I said that'll definitely be a home win, and I'll be back next week to tell you about
The loss.
our trashing.
That's when you said they're going to get 7 points out of their next 3 games, and they probably went out and lost 1, so the maximum they can get is 6, but...
Well, it's the challenge, you never know.
Yeah. But you did you have imagined at home, Suwon City will win that one.
Yes, I think so. I think Suwon are pretty good side. They're on form. Suwon to beat Kangwon, and then the last one,
Detestable Team
it's a
A
draw.
against Detestable Team B.
It's a draw. Sorry, good friend of the podcast, Austin Berry. You're not going to beat Ansan Police. It's going to be a draw. It's going to be 1 each.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Anyang victory. I saw Ansan Police against Bucheon, and they were poor. They literally were awful. Bucheon should have beat them. They should have at least have drawn when they hit the bar, but they should have beat them definitely. So I'm going to go for a home crowd at Anyang on the Sunday when no one's working the next day. So like everyone can go out and have a bit of a more of a party atmosphere. I'm going to say Anyang will do just enough to put Ansan Police out.
So we could actually go to this, couldn't we?
We technically could go if I wasn't going to the baseball.
What? There you go.
I'm going to baseball on Sunday.
What?
A Rounders fan in our midst.
No, I hate it, but I got free tickets based on her sister bought them for me.
All right. So based on
And that wasn't an invite to any of you two guys to come along and join the sister band, just so you know, yeah?
Is the sister hot?
I can't comment on that, possibly.
Right, based on the stats, Mark, Ansan have played 9, drawn 6. Anyang have played 9, drawn 6. Does that influence you at all, or are you still going for Anyang home win?
Anyang victory home win.
Paul?
I went to one of the corresponding fixtures last year when both teams were chasing the playoffs. That was actually held at Ansan, but it ended up 1-1. So yeah, I'm gonna be influenced by your stats and say it's going to be a draw.
I think that one's got a draw written all over it. That wraps it up, I guess. Just to check, guys, what games you plan to go to?
Seeing as the game I was going to, which was Suwon Songnam, has been cancelled, or postponed, sorry, not cancelled, I will probably take in Bucheon Gyeongnam.
Paul, you going to the game?
I think I will. I'm not sure which. I was tempted to go and see the Martyrs get crushed by Pocheon, and then I looked up how to get to Pocheon and it seemed like a bit of a hassle, so I got the temptation of going to see 50 goals up there, or the ease of getting up to
50
Koyang.
goals at Goyang.
The ease of getting to Koyang and seeing 1 goal. I'll make a decision sometime later this week.
Okay, well, I'll definitely be at Goyang, I think, for the Seoul Elan game. Alright, so I guess the only thing left to do then is to remind you, if you want to get in touch with us, the Twitter account, Mark, is?
At K-League _podcast.
And the email address is?
48, that's the number 48, shadesoffootball@gmail.com.
And for the bonus points, do you know what the Facebook is?
Facebook is K-League Podcast Facebook page. Just search for K-League Podcast on Facebook. I'm joking, it's 48 Shades of Football on Facebook.
And the YouTube page?
Just search for 48 Shades of Football on YouTube as well.
You do realise us giving out the address every week is like people on Earth broadcasting into space and hope that aliens will listen and respond.
Yes.
But every now and again they do, that's when you get an episode like V.
And we ignore what they say.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Sorry, Danny. We'll get there eventually.
So we got that last week, we told the funny story last week.
We cut it.
We cut it? It was too long. Sorry, Danny, it was cut.
It was cut for time constraints.
Damn. Alright, so please do get in touch with us if you are listening. We love to hear from you at least once.
And ignore you.
Even if we do ignore you, we love to hear from you. So the only thing that remains then, I guess, is a little bit of music to play us out. Paul, you're going to choose something this week for the 4 teams that are too cowardly to actually play their games before their ACL fixtures.
I mean, some might say they're pussies for taking the week off before the ACL away games.
Mark might say that.
Yeah,
anyway.
Mark might say that.
Can't think who.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find an appropriate song to represent that, so I'm going to say they're going to sneak out to their away legs early, going to go on a bit of a beach holiday for 1 or 2 days, team building exercise and all that kind of Premier League sort of midweek sort of break in Dubai. And I think they're going on their some holidays, so here's something to reflect that. Take it away, Cliff.
We're all going on a summer holiday. No more working for a week or two. Fun and laughter on our